most responsible gun owners, lots of responsible gun owners that I know would wholeheartedly agree with you. So I want to ask a question. You just mentioned, on one of the gun bills where the legislature went back and undid the will of the people. The legislature is currently trying to undo the will of the people on another issue, and that's Clean Missouri, which passed by an overwhelming margin back in 2018, but is now back on the ballot, or a revised version of it that would undo what the voters said very clearly that they wanted to see done, and that is ethics reform and fair boundary lines for legislative districts. In other words, allowing people to choose their own representatives instead of those representatives choosing them through the gerrymandering process. You gave us a few minutes ago a rundown of the boundaries of your district, but it's pretty complicated because we know that these districts are often drawn in a way that really allows office holders to stay in power. So what's your view on that, Helena? And what would you do differently than your opponent when it comes to Clean Missouri?
Yeah, so this premise that my opponent is putting forth, and that is the party line against Clean Missouri, is that people didn't know what they were voting about. I get very upset about this. I'm insulted. The voters in District 100, and I didn't just look at the state, but the district itself voted over 60% for Clean Missouri. And let me tell you something about District 100. District 100 has some of the most well-informed, intelligent, and disciplined voters in Missouri. They study their ballots. They know what they're voting for. They study the initiatives that are on there. To say that we didn't know what we were voting for is, it's inexcusable to make that as the excuse. And so my opponent did vote for Dirty Missouri. That's what we're calling it. He voted to put on the ballot basically a measure that would undo all of the non-partisan demographer policies that are in there, guidelines. And they're actually putting forth guidelines that are allowing for even more gerrymandering than we've already had. And, I just think my opponent doesn't respect the will of the people. I think he doesn't think that his seat is vulnerable, and so he doesn't have to listen to the voice of the people. And I will be honest with you, if you go and look at the vote, 14 Republicans voted against Dirty Missouri. 14. This is not just a partisan issue. There are people in this state, there are legislators who respect the will of the people, and there are legislators who do not. And the only reason that I can imagine that Derek would not want to respect the will of the people is if he's been told by his political bosses that he can't, that he's got to get this undone because they don't want to lose power. I just think it's obvious, and I trust the voters that on election day, they're going to vote against Dirty Missouri and put this to bed. But it will come back, just like everything else, just like concealed carry, just like right to work, just like puppy mills. Everything will be undone if you don't vote in legislators who will respect the will of the people. And that's my commitment. We have when I was knocking doors in 2018, I met people on the far right and I met people on the far left, and I talked to as many people as possible. And let me tell you, there are no two doors the same in this district. And every circumstance is different behind every door, but we want our vote respected, and we deserve that.